There's a certain kind of unraveling that doesn't come with explosions or fanfare. It happens slowly, quietly, often when no one else is watching. From the outside, you still look fine. You're showing up, working, smiling, but something in you has shifted. What used to energize you now leaves you drained. What used to feel meaningful now feels like a script you forgot how to believe in. You might be in your 30s, 40s, or 60s. You might have achieved a lot or done everything right. But still, something doesn't feel right anymore. And it's hard to explain. You're not falling apart, but you're not exactly whole either. It's more like something essential is missing. And maybe it has been for a while. It's easy to brush it off, to call it burnout or just a phase, to blame your schedule or your job or the season. But deep down, there's a voice, faint but persistent, asking, is this all there is? Not out of cynicism, but out of a quiet longing for something more real, more aligned, more you. And if you're here, chances are you felt it too. Psychologists might call it an identity shift. Spiritual teachers might call it a death of the false self. But for most of us, it just feels like waking up one day and realizing the story we've been living doesn't fit anymore. Maybe it's the job you spent years building that now feels like a cage. Maybe it's the role you've played, the dependable one, the overachiever, the giver, that no longer feels true. Maybe it's the sudden realization that all the chasing, all the performing, all the pleasing has left you emotionally bankrupt, and it hits you in strange ways. You stare at the screen longer than usual. You scroll more, but care less. You get quiet in conversations, unsure what you're even supposed to say anymore. From the outside, you just seem tired, but inside you're grieving. Grieving the self you worked so hard to build. The one who held everything together, the one who did what was expected, the one who survived but didn't thrive. That self kept you safe, but now something deeper is asking to emerge. And that's where the discomfort really begins. When the momentum that once carried you starts to feel heavy, you realize you've been climbing a ladder, and maybe it's leaning against the wrong wall. And now what? You don't have a new plan. You're not sure what comes next. You just know you can't go back to sleep. This isn't a crisis, it's a call. A quiet but powerful invitation to stop living on autopilot, to stop outsourcing your value to roles and routines that don't reflect who you truly are. This is the threshold. It's disorienting, it's uncomfortable, and it often feels lonely because no one else can walk through it for you, but it's also honest, raw, awake, and that's where the flow begins. We often think of flow as something smooth, effortless, positive, but the truth is, flow begins where control ends, and that's not always graceful. Sometimes trusting the flow means surrendering the job that gave you status, but stole your peace. Sometimes it means letting go of being needed, being liked, being on top of it all. Sometimes it's lying awake at night, not because you failed, but because your soul is trying to get your attention. Letting go doesn't always look brave. Sometimes it looks like pausing in the middle of your life and admitting you don't know who you are anymore. And that's okay. This isn't weakness, it's growth in disguise. Because there comes a moment, if you're lucky, when the pain of pretending outweighs the fear of change. And in that moment, something real begins. There's a concept in Taoist philosophy called Wu Wei. It's often translated as effortless action. But that doesn't mean passivity. It means moving with the natural rhythm of life, not against it. It means allowing things to unfold without force. It's the opposite of pushing. It's the art of trusting. But in a world that worships effort and control, trusting the flow feels radical. maybe even irresponsible. You were taught to hustle, to fix, to do. So when you stop, when you pause long enough to feel what's really inside, it can feel like failure. But it's not. It's freedom. You're not failing because you don't have it all figured out. You're becoming someone who no longer needs to. You're shifting from trying to prove yourself to learning how to hear yourself. From building a life that looks good to finding one that feels true. And that's sacred work, but it's invisible to most people because there's no medal for softening, no applause for surrender, no trophy for letting go. There's just you, alone, listening, trusting, one breath at a time. There's a strange kind of clarity that shows up when you stop trying to force clarity, when you stop asking, what should I be doing? And instead begin to ask, what is this moment asking of me? At first, there's fear, because without a plan, without a title, without a clear outcome, who are you? We spend so much of our lives building identities, roles, personas, carefully shaped versions of ourselves meant to be useful, dependable, admirable, all sculpted in the image of what others needed, what the world rewarded, what felt safe. But what happens when usefulness no longer fulfills you? When service becomes self-abandonment? When doing good no longer feels good? What happens when the roles you once found pride in begin to feel like cages? Eventually you hit that quiet wall, the one no one talks about. Not a breakdown, not a burnout. Just a moment of stillness where the story stops making sense, and the striving no longer covers the ache. You don't know who you are anymore, but for the first time you're not pretending to know either. And that is something holy. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's honest. We don't talk enough about this middle space, the one between letting go and finding new ground. The space where you still show up, but you no longer show up the same. It's disorienting, it's uncertain, and yet it's where real transformation begins. Because from that space, you stop asking how to fix your life, and you begin listening to what life is trying to say to you, not in the language of achievement, but in the quiet language of alignment. And it asks questions like, are you tired of chasing things that never satisfy you? Are you willing to feel lost if it means no longer betraying yourself? Are you ready to stop performing and start being? The shift begins subtly. You pause more. You say, I don't know, with less shame. You stop running towards something that never had your name on it. And in that pause, something deeper starts to move. Not a new identity, not a new goal, but a new way of relating to your life. One rooted not in control, but in trust. Not the kind of trust that says everything will go your way, but the kind that says, even if it doesn't, I will meet it as I am. You begin to trust your number. You begin to trust your slowness. You begin to trust that the space you once filled with proving is now a space for peace. And peace doesn't beg to be seen. It doesn't perform. It just is. There's no applause for becoming real. No trophy for letting go. No title for trusting what only you can feel. But the relief of not living someone else's life anymore, that is reward enough. So you soften. You learn to breathe in the middle of not knowing. You learn to let decisions take their time. You learn to sit with the discomfort of not having a plan. And somehow that becomes the new strength. Not pushing through uncertainty, but walking beside it. You stop seeking comfort in answers. You start finding it in presence, in not needing to rush the healing, in not needing to arrive, in letting today be enough. There's no exact moment when it happens, but one day you look around and realize you're not in the same place you started. You still don't have it all figured out, but the panic is gone. You still have doubts, but they don't own you. You still feel the pull to do more, but now you check in with your soul first. You've left the old world of proving and entered a quieter world, one built on listening. And slowly the noise begins to fade, the fear begins to loosen, and your life starts to feel like it belongs to you again. And not because everything's perfect, not because you figured it all out, but because you finally stopped abandoning yourself. You didn't find clarity by pushing harder. You found it by trusting what's unfolding. You found it by stepping out of the narrative that said you had to fix, or strive, or keep it all together. You found it in the stillness, in the ache, in the soft, unglamorous decision to be true instead of impressive. You found it in the flow, not the kind that sweeps you up in magic, but the kind that invites you to rest, to release, to return, to yourself. And maybe that's where the real life begins, not when everything goes to plan, but when the plan finally dissolves and you trust the river beneath you to carry you home.